The Tinubu's administration is known for violating agreements. They are known for not keeping to what they say, both on paper and through their words. Anytime they have agreement with any institution or any group, they will be the one to violate the agreement. Now, this time around, it's not the labor union. This time around, it is the Academic Staff Union of Universities called ASUU. There is a news here that the Nigerian Lecturers Union has to prepare for possible strike, mobilizes members nationwide. But in the midst of all these problems, the reason why the federal government is not keeping agreement is the excuses they are giving that there is no money. But when there is no money, is this kind of things that they're supposed to be doing?
The current Nigerian government seems to be the most tone-deaf government we've had in recent times because of all the things Nigeria in its current state needs to spend money on. If a serious government has taken a look at the current state of affairs and truly is keen on working on a better life for its citizens, if that government, for example, put together a 100-item list, I'm sure that a serious government wouldn't find space to put 21 billion naira for the vice president's residence on that list. Just imagine. Put together a list of the top 50 things that Nigeria needs currently, urgently. I'm sure that there wouldn't be any space if we had a serious government to put 21 billion naira in for the vice president's residence. But the government in Nigeria today continues to show Nigerians very clearly that its priority isn't the Nigerian people. This, ladies and gentlemen, is renewed hope. There's no way in logical terms that this project can be defended by any person, but with renewed hope, they don't even bother to give you a good explanation for why this is. What they've simply said is, and of course I'm going to be quoting the Vice President and the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike. He says, this project was awarded in 2010, 14 years ago, and was abandoned in 2014. It was in January this year, in 2024, that we had to review the project to 21 billion naira from 7 billion naira, and that means an additional 14 billion naira. He goes on to say, for a vice president's residence to take 14 good years, and then Mr. President within a year made it a reality. This is what is called renewed hope. Now, it goes on to say that President Tinubu explained that the provision of a suitable residence for the vice president is not merely a matter of convenience, but also a symbol of respect for the office and the individual who occupies it. Again, this is what we see as renewed hope. And the thing here is, the Honorable Minister of the FCT sees this as something that Nigerians should applaud them for completing an unfinished project. He's proud of it. He's excited to tell you that they've finished this project in 1 year. But this is the same government that told Nigerians to tighten their belts. And the same Nigerians have had to make completely insane sacrifices just to survive current realities. The same government does the complete opposite, has no thought in itself to hold back when it's time to spend billions and billions of naira. In what way in any universe is spending 21 billion naira on the vice president's residence beneficial to the Nigerian people? Why does Nigeria need that residence currently? And calling this a waste of money, of course, calling the whole project a waste of money, goes to show Nigerians exactly what this government has in its renewed hope agenda. More and more waste of the country's resources. Now, not only is the renewed hope wasteful in mind-blowing proportions, it is also very proud and loud when they waste Nigeria's money. It's only in Nigeria that you see the president or vice president and other top government officials leave their official duties to go and cut ribbon at the opening of a house. You wouldn't see this anywhere else in the world. And it shows clearly that these people are not busy. They have their priorities very, very twisted. One would expect that when such an expense is brought to the National Assembly or Mr. President's table, they will look at it and say, no, not right now, because Nigeria needs every available penny to be redirected into healthcare and education, security, and other more important issues. That's what you would expect in a country that knows that it doesn't have money to waste. But Nigeria has money to waste. The Nigerian government has money to waste. The renewed hope agenda has billions of naira to waste. Don't be fooled. And so it is in my view that we need to stop trying to remind the presidency about the sufferings of Nigerians. Stop this whole talk about, oh, Mr. President needs to be made aware that Nigerians are going through a lot. Because don't be deceived. It's not that they are not aware. They just have other things that they are focused on in the interim.
Now to education matters now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has threatened another nationwide strike to protest the absence of governing councils in all federal universities, among other issues the federal government is yet to address. ASUU President Professor Emmanuel Osedeke issued the threat at an ongoing press conference at the union's National Secretariat in Abuja. The body, which said the federal government dissolved governing councils of the universities in May last year, has asked Nigerians to hold the government responsible for any decision it takes to protest the action of government. Now, to further discuss this, I'm joined by Dr. Kelechi Nwogu, an educator. Good morning and welcome. Good to have you here. So, good question to ask you to start this. Here. Yes. Now, how does the absence of the governing council in federal universities really impact the overall quality of education and the academic activities as well? And what long-term consequences could this have on the Nigerian education system?
Running a university without a governing council is almost like raising a child without proper parenting. The governing councils of universities should be an intermediary framework between the universities and the government of the day, where they act like they are neutral, but then they work to bring on the real values and vision of governance down to the grassroots in terms of education. So they have direct interaction with the universities of concern, and then they bring reports to the federal government on the day-to-day runnings of the universities, the challenges and all that. So when you set up a university without a governing council, it seems as though you're purposely blocking your ears to the realities and the concerns of these universities. And for the most part, it's not a very interesting idea. Okay, because how then do you get reports? You otherwise would get indirect reports through news blogs and gossip blogs and all of that, and it's not appropriate. Okay, you really don't bear down on the concerns of the university, the day-to-day concerns of the university, and there isn't proper interaction, and there can't be appropriate development as you desire. Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Kechi, I hear what you're saying now. However, ASUU has done what ASUU has always done, which is to, well, give a threat, go to the media. But what alternative strategies could ASUU employ to exert the pressure that they need for the federal government to address their concerns? And what are the potential backdraw or drawbacks of another nationwide strike for students and lecturers and, in general, the education sector?
Okay, it's a sad one, because the reason why ASUU tends to the media or otherwise threatens strike action is because we don't have a listening government. I mean, this is not peculiar to any particular government. We're talking about 2009 agreements. 2009 was how many years ago? And the government of about 15 years ago. And it's sad to note that over 15 years, exchange rates have more than multiplied, right? And then there have been no responses. There have been promises, failed promises. It shows a high sense of irresponsibility on the part of the government. I mean, you set up these universities to function and to run, benchmarked with global standards. And now there's no monitoring system. There's no responsive system. Okay, so you just make promises, empty promises, and then it comes to educating the populace. Then you send them abroad. You send your own children abroad and let the children of the masses suffer in these universities. And so, how do you measure standards? How do you assess the performances of the universities? And then how do you expect the children to compete with children in other climes? So it's unfortunate, but ASUU is left with no other option than to reach out to you. Probably before this stage, a lot of letters should have been written, a lot of lobbying would have been done just to get a face with the sponsor, get a face with the government. But the government doesn't seem to be granting that access. And so the media seems to be the only channel through which they can say, okay, government, you have to hear us. So they have to condition the government to listening to their plight, hearing their cries, and doing something. And then over time, 15 years, okay, yes, there have been interactions, but all the interactions have just gone to waste because the government has not responded as they should. There are earned allowances, there are sponsorship grants, also research grants and all that, and the government says we will do this, and government in, government out, government doesn't do what they ought to do or what they promised to do. And what do you expect? ASUU would say we'll go on strike. Now, strikes are not the best response from ASUU to the government, but you discover that most labor unions in Nigeria tend towards strikes because that is the only way they can twist the government. That is the only way they can pressure the government. That is the only way they can embarrass the government enough to taking the needed action. And then, you ask me what other style or action can they take beyond this? Communication. But where there is no communication, then there is frustration. Okay, you want to say something, but you're not given the listening ear. You think of whatever, even in the home front, your child wants to say something to you and you're not listening, you're not paying attention. The child would make all sorts of noise just to get you, paying the attention. Even if you're sleeping, the child would come, bang on your door and do everything. It's natural. So in Nigeria, the only formula that works is the strike action, especially prior to elections. Because then they are campaigning, they want votes from the labor unions, they want this, So getting on this at this time, seems to be 1 year after the previous elections, and up till now, the government of the day seems to have settled down, as we assume in Nigeria. But unfortunately, education doesn't seem to be on the exclusive list or on the emergency list of government. A lot is going wrong, and if ASUU keeps quiet, probably approaching things the way they usually do, trying to write letters, trying to seek audience with the government, things would go still, things would go to waste.
Okay,
and then the blame will be on all the university systems, the lecturers and all that. So I think strike actions seem to be the only language the government of the day understands, and that's why they use that approach.
All right, then, Dr. Kechi, thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's as much as we can ask you.